Hey folks, welcome back. In this video, we're going to take a look at techniques for drawing hair. So let's get right into it. So first thing I want to do is I want to start the conversation of what does a single strand of hair look like? And this will become important here in a minute. But if you think about hair, you have the root. This is a single strand of hair, and then you've got the end. And this is basically, we look at it as a volumetric shape. It is a tapered cylinder. It starts out thicker and it gets progressively thinner until it comes to the very end of the hair. So when we're trying to convey hair, don't think of hair as individual strands. Think about hair as having a shape as well. So let's take, for example, if we just draw a thicker version of that strand of hair. Now what we can do is we can come back in, and I'll zoom in here so you can see this a little bit better. We can draw some of those individual strands of hair, and the closer I place those lines to each other, the darker that hair appears to be. It looks like the hair is much more dense. I don't have to draw every strand of hair, but what I do want to keep in mind is that hair can be conveyed with light and dark values by the thickness of our line as well as the spacing of our line. So you can see here that when the hair is darker, the lines are thicker and they're more dense. And as we start to move out to the ends here, you can see that they start to get lighter or thinner and spaced further away. And that's a really important concept to keep in mind here. So with that, I've got several different heads that I've drawn. And you can see that I haven't drawn any facial features or anything else of that nature. It's just kept it very simple. So let's take a look at this over here. Now, we'll talk about hair parting. Usually hair will part on one side. Parting means that the strands of hair, the roots, start from one side and they kind of move over to the other side. So you can have your hair parted on the left, or you can have your hair parted on the right. There are cases where hair does not have any part, but I'm going to start out with the parting of the hair as the simplest example here. So let's see if we can draw someone who has curly hair. So what I'll do is I'll just start with the part and I'll create a shape that looks something like this. I'll just kind of have all the hair curl. I'll have large, medium, and small shapes. And you can see that the spacing of these lines here signify that the hair is light. If I have very few strands of hair, and if I have like the spacing between these lines, that kind of implies that the hair is lighter. If I were to go and do the other side here, and rotate the canvas, I don't have to draw every strand of hair. I just have to convey, is this light hair? Like maybe this is like a blonde hair. Then I don't need to have too many lines. I'm going to have thinner lines. They're going to be spaced further away from one another. Now, the counterpoint to that is if I have hair that is darker. So let's consider the case where this shape here represents the back of the head. So what if we have hair that is going to be more brunette or kind of a brownish hair, darker hair, maybe even black? And what I can do is I can make these lines closer to each other. I can extend those lines. And line weight becomes a really important factor here. So I can make those lines thicker as they come down and closer. And you can see that kind of gives the feeling of dark hair. And it's okay to have certain areas where even within dark hair, there's going to be a little bit of light reflecting. It's going to cause some of the hair to appear lighter, and that's totally fine. So in this case, we have the back of someone's hair and they're a brunette, and you can see that we're able to convey that pretty easily. Now in Photoshop, you can make the size of your brush bigger or smaller with the left or right bracket keys. So that's something else that I would suggest that you do. You want to pick an inking brush that is not going to be super duper thin or super duper thick. And so you can kind of work it like that. So let's say I want to draw hair that does not have a natural part. Maybe I want to draw some short, curly hair, something like this. And this is going to be darker here. What I can do is, with the brush being somewhat thick, I can make these repeating patterns. I can bring them and make them really close to each other. And what that does is, the thicker the line and the closer the proximity of the lines, notice how it looks darker. And I can kind of make the lines a little bit more spaced out and thinner as we recede back, to suggest that there might be a little bit of light. So you don't have to color every strand. What you want to avoid doing is just, drawing hair as a line. Think about the form. If you're drawing someone who has really curly hair, you just don't want to have, something like this everywhere where it's all uniform. You want to think about body, and you want to think about thickness of that hair. So let's try another example. Let's do one where the hair is parted and we have a ponytail. So start out with the shape, and there's the part. There's another part over on this side. And usually with the ponytail, and I'll just kind of add a little bit of curls down here. With the ponytail, you have a fraction of the hair that's tied up. And you have this tapering form. I'm going to make the hair somewhat light. You can see that there's a dominance of light values here. So that's kind of evoking the idea that the character has light colored hair. Again, I'm not drawing every single strand. I'm just conveying the form. You can think of these lines that represent the strands of hair as conveying the form and the contours of the hair as the shape. When you're doing that, you want to avoid, for example, if I have someone's hair, you don't want to shade it like this, because what you're doing is you're flattening out that form. Instead, what you want to do is you want to shade, or you want to add your hatching to kind of conform to the overall shape. Now, what about a character that is somewhat balding? Well, in this case, I'll just draw an ear. And if they're balding, but they have some hair on the side, and we'll make it kind of a grayish hair. So how do we convey gray with someone who's balding? Well, notice how thin these lines are, right? And I'll put a few lines closer to each other, but the lines are still relatively thin. This is suggesting something that looks like it's not totally light, but it's not totally dark. So the thinner the line weight, the lighter something will actually look. And so those are some things that you should keep in mind. Always, when you're looking at hair, look at references for hair. You can look at, Pinterest, and you can look up haircut styles, or you can look at a fashion magazine, or just look at photos that you may already have in your collection and see if you can identify A, whether the hair is light or dark, B, if there's a hair partition or not, and if so, where is it? And also think about how you can use thin to thick lines to convey hair that's either light or hair that's dark. So if you found value in this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. Again, my name is Krishna. Welcome to my channel. If this is the first time that you're watching it, I do appreciate you tuning in, and consider subscribing, because I've got plenty of excellent content that I think might help you out. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.